Thank you for this opportunity to share my experience. It's really important for me, and I believe this 1 hour of discussion, because I want it to be discussion, will leave you and me with much broader knowledge and especially skills in using case studies in the classroom. In the video case studies or typical case studies, it doesn't matter. I have prepared just a few slides, only to be sure that I'm covering all the topics that I want to cover today, and only to, simply speaking, structure the discussion. When Catherine asked me for preparing this presentation, I was thinking for a few weeks, what is really important? What is working with case studies? What is not working? What are my good experience? What are my extremely bad experience with case studies? And I realized that we should probably meet much earlier, before your video case studies have been recorded, but you have the video cases almost ready. I believe still a lot can be done to make these cases really, really good, or even the best in the history. I wish you that your case studies will be really, really good, and I will have the opportunity to use them. So as Catherine said, I have a lot of experience, luckily or not, mostly with international students with a completely different experience, different background, but also different expectations. And what I realized after so many years, several years of teaching with case studies, the most important, the crucial key success factor for using case studies is the selection of case studies. So we have to be very, very aware who are our students and what kind of case study we can use. By success, I mean the teaching learning experience, which is leaving students with a focus on a case study and enrich the students' knowledge and mostly the skills, because I fully concentrate on skills. Knowledge is something you can always catch up. Skills, absolutely not. You have to practice this in a classroom. And I'm trying to very delicately force them to think, to interact with each other, to look for best solutions. At the same time, I have to be honest and tell you that I have extremely bad experience with using case studies, and I want to share this experience with you in a minute. And I believe it's early in the morning for most of us, so I would like to propose right now a very simple activity to wake up us a little. So I want to ask you to take your mobile phones right now. Go to www.menti.com. I will do the same. And answer a few very simple questions, but these questions will help us to know a little bit more about ourselves, to be more aware what are our success and our failures with using case studies. So please go to the website, use the code that you can see, 30537627, and answer 3 or 4 questions that I've prepared for today. 627. So the first is the 3 most important benefits of using case studies. I want you to use just one word for describe one benefit. So it can be adjective, noun, whatever, verb. Just put it and submit, okay? My students are always happy when I'm asking them to take mobile phones during the classes. When ready, please submit. There is 10 of us, so we are waiting for 10 answers. 4 more. And 2 more. But we can see that it's practical. It gives us engagement of the students. Exciting. We are touching real problems, real world examples, real life experience. That's the same. People, not abstract relevance, interesting, innovation, real life, context, imagination, reality, real world. So practice and reality. This is something we are trying to cover in case studies in most of cases. Let's go to the second question. What is your experience with using case studies? It's mostly positive, rather positive, neutral, rather negative, and mostly negative. And the person who answered rather negative, we will have to identify who was it and why. Could you please share why rather negative?
So I use a textbook, and it has these cases embedded within them. So I don't think that they're particularly good, but I have a tendency to use them sometimes because, yeah, they're part of the textbook, and otherwise students start complaining, well, why did we buy the book if you're not using it? So I use the cases which are there, but then, yeah, it's not very rich, and there is supposed supplementary material, but there really isn't. If I go there, the website doesn't work. I have to log in, and then I go to another website, and it still doesn't work. I send an email to the publisher, and then, yeah, he says, yeah, the edition has changed. So all in all, I have not used, I'm not very happy with the cases that are in the book. They tell me I should use like the case center or whatever, but then you have to pay for it. So I don't do that. So all in all, I must admit, I'm not very happy with my experience so far.
Do you believe that the cases that you have to pay for are better?
Possibly, yeah. I hope so. I've downloaded a few like illegally, and you know, with the what does it say, like in the background you see that watermark that you can't distribute it to students. So I think that some are better. I've used a few, but then of course, yeah, I shouldn't do that without paying. So yeah.
Definitely.
We are recording, remember?
Yeah, I wanted to mention this. It's good you did not mention the editor name. Okay, and those of you who've indicated mostly positive, what are your experience? Why they are mostly positive? Show up.
Hi there. I put mostly positive because of the way that I was using case studies at the time. I was leading an introductory international business module, and I mostly used the case studies in the textbook for seminars. And this was the time where the students would have the opportunity to apply course concepts and theories to an actual company. And I normally found that there was sufficient content in the textbook case study for that kind of seminar 1 hour sort of purpose with a couple of questions. But I don't disagree that were it to be a more in-depth kind of case study exercise, it would need more supplementary material, et cetera, et cetera. So for how I was using it, I was finding it mostly positive. The students were finding it stimulating just to start to locate some of the concepts that we were talking about in an actual, you know, sort of company situation.
Super, thank you so much for sharing.
The other person was me.
Yeah.
I had, it's mostly positive because I've been using case studies since late 80s. It was 1989 first time. I was a PhD student and I was asked to use them in the class. So, I mean, I've actually spent a lot of time in order to be able to understand the methodology and also the theory behind case studies. Why do we have them? And therefore, I've spent a lot of time trying to understand so that I can actually deliver them in a best way within the class environment. It is mostly positive because I always feel that students enjoy them if they are handled properly, because it gives them a break from theory. And especially at the end of the class, if we are able to provide the link between the theory and the example, I think that is really a blissful situation for them. Because I always find that students find it a bit hard to understand the theory, especially undergrad students who do not have any experience with the practical world. So they cannot really see how this theory is going to help them in real life situations. Whereas cases just do that for them. But again, I do understand that it is time consuming to teach case studies as well, because it's quite a bit of preparation time. But as I said, as a PhD student, I've spent considerable amount of time trying to understand how to deliver them in a best possible way. And since then, I've been using them. That's probably why I have positive results.
Yeah, and we are using because probably our students expect us to do this. And of course, the dean is also expecting us to use case studies, but the students are coming to the classroom and asking, what about case studies? That's my case. They're asking me, Anna, will we be using case studies? Yes, mostly case studies. Different, but case studies. I have another one question. Difficult. My students' experience with using case studies are. You can indicate, I don't know. I would suggest not, but you can do this. I don't know. That scares me. You don't know your students? Those who think don't know about the student's experience, what they think about, what's their perception. Why you don't know? You're not communicating with your students. You are not asking them. You are not looking into the feedback or feed forward that you receive from your students. You don't want to show up.
Yeah, sure, of course. No worries. So there's a student evaluation, but the questions are basically quite standardized. Some of them type in some info, but I don't find it very useful to be honest.
What about the comments section? There is usually the place space for comments.
Yeah, they don't tell me all that much. They're mostly about, like I said, why did we buy the book? We didn't use every single page or every chapter was not treated in depth. I do this on purpose. I explained in the beginning, but probably one, they were not there or they didn't listen. I don't know. I don't find it very useful. And then you could say, of course, yeah, but why don't you ask them? True, that I probably should or could do that. Yeah.
In the middle of semester, you can simply ask, how do you feel about using these case studies? We can skip them. We can concentrate on something completely else. I'm doing this. And the most difficult question, please describe what is your worst experience with case study as a teaching tool? I'm sure you have. So it's short answer, 250 characters, but I will try. What do we have? Students didn't read the case. Oh, that's so common. That's not the worst experience. That's really common. If the chosen case doesn't help in explaining the concept, it is happening quite often. Technical problems. Students complain when they are out of date or boring. They are. We would have to update cases year by year. Students do not really read longer case and come to class unprepared. This is mine with this Danish newspapers. This is mine really bad experience. I will remember this forever. So I used a case study which was describing the impact of drawings of prophet in the Danish newspapers. They first appears in the Danish newspapers, then in German, American, or I don't remember, French, etc. newspapers. What was the impact on the Danish business? And I realized that my classroom is full of Muslim students. And I said, oh my God, what I did. My teaching strategy was entirely wrong for the case, and students did not engage, and worse, went out of class. No return experience and knowledge than before the classes. That's pity. Students did not engage and did not try to use real situation. It went into fiction situation, lack of clarity due to sound issues in Zoom, and students respond with information that already without it. Yeah, so that is happening. Are you using this word experience? Are you remembering about it and trying to avoid the same situation? With students didn't read the case, this is really typical. What to do to force them or to persuade them? It's for you, really. Spend your time, read the case. How to do this? Do you have any ideas to persuade your students to be really prepared to treat it seriously?
My only possibility is rather to threaten them than to persuade them. And I do not like doing it. This is why I try to schedule the time, at least some of the time, to at least browse the content, if not must be. This is why I prefer shorter cases than the longer ones. Otherwise, the class is just falling apart. But I wouldn't use the word persuade, as you said. It's more like I treat it as a threat of what might become of the consequences, which is also not why I'm happy with myself for doing it.
Okay. Is the video case the good alternative? They don't have to read, they can watch.
Yes, I think so.
Maybe...
If it's not too long and you can make them watch during the course, if you have enough time, that's a very good solution, because I also think it's very difficult to make them read the cases in advance. So yeah, that's a nice thing about the video cases. I think you can just watch pieces in class and then discuss them.
I thought that's why you've been realizing this project devoted to video case studies, that you have such a problem with the students. Okay, thank you so much for sharing your experience with me. I know much more right now, and I'm much more aware of the problems and where we are with the case studies, using case studies as a teaching tools in our classrooms. Now I would like to go point by point with the issues, with the concept that I think are absolutely key success factors in using case studies in a classroom, also in a virtual classroom. It doesn't matter, it's absolutely the same. So the first, the absolutely must-have of any case study is a hook. It can be included into the case study, but it's much better to start the class or start the analysis of case study from this hook. It can be different things. You can bring the object to the classroom. You can and leave it on a desk without any comments. Just bring it and have the students' attention. It can be a meaningful citation. Again, display it on the screen and nothing more. I'm leaving the students with a bit of quiet. They have time to think about it. And I'm not trying to stress, to say something about anything. It can be provocative sentence or provocative questions. In this case, you have to be really careful not to be too provocative. So we have to avoid some delicate issues, culturally sensitive issues, but basically it's really nice to start with something like this, or it can be the picture of someone or something, or a video, someone or something which is directly or indirectly connected with the case study. And With this last one case, I had such good memories with using Hook in a case study on the course devoted to alternative investment. We've been discussing the case study describing the market of modern art and evaluation of a piece of art. And I've started with showing the students the picture, that was the picture, of piece of art. It was prepared by my 3-year-old daughter at that time. They had no idea. They've been doing the case, analyzing, looking for solutions. And at the very end, I've asked them the question, what you've been thinking about while working on this case study. And they told me, Anna, we've been thinking about the value of the piece of art you've showed us. And I said, okay, what do you think? What's the value? They had absolutely no idea. But they've been thinking, and this was my objective. This was my aim. I wanted them to focus, to concentrate, to have the aim while looking for a solution of this case study. Another approach to Hook, which I'm using very, very often.
And did you tell them what the piece of art was?
Yeah, at the very end, I told them. I've asked them, how much would you pay for this? And I would say, my Susanna would be very, very happy. Give me the money. My another approach to the Hook, which I'm using in a classroom, is a simple storytelling. This is my dog, Boomer. He is watching me when I'm teaching, and I want you to be focused on the course, like the Boomer is. And it's very simple, but it's really working. When I'm observing that I'm losing students' attention, I'm just saying, please remember, be like the Boomer is. And I have their attention. We have a bit of fun, but also I have their attention. My executive MBA American teachers are always repeating to my managers, top managers, students, you have to feel a bit of fun while being here. And I'm trying to apply this method as well. The second issue which I want to talk with you is a storytelling for giving the context. Most of my students are telling me, Anna, why we should concentrate on this case study. We don't understand. So you have to bring the context and to use a storytelling. Of course, when we are covering topics devoted to companies which are well-known, Amazon, Apple, Toyota, Volkswagen, many, many, many others, we don't need to introduce the company, the business model. We don't need the context. But the students, they don't like this kind of cases. They have enough of these cases. Sometimes I'm joking at the end of classes, next week, we will be talking about Toyota. And you know, the answer is, Anna, not Toyota. We have enough of Toyota, Apple, Amazon, Volkswagen. We don't want these companies. We know them. In fact, we don't know them, but we know the cases. All the cases seem exactly the same and cover exactly the same issues. So when we are using much more interesting companies, which are less known, but at the same time, much more interesting for the students, this requires us to spend a bit of time to prepare introduction, to build attention, like in a detective novel, to give students just a piece, but the most important piece of the general picture and explain them the business model. My main problem is that we are not understanding the business model of companies. We see just a piece of the picture, not the general picture. When you know what are the stream of revenues, what is the structure of cost, it's much easier for the students to follow you and to be interested. So one more thing, practical thing, information needs to be dosed out. Do not give them the whole picture. Just ask them or observe them. They have to ask you, Anna, tell us a little bit more. And the storytelling is really fun and it's really nice tool when we are including the elements of privacy. When you are telling the student once upon a time, it's not working. When you are telling them, 3 weeks ago, my husband friend who is running the business had such a situation. You are using particular people. You are naming the people, particular situation, particular data. They are much more interesting than in a fairy tale once upon a time. So it's not working. Sometimes I'm selling a bit of my own privacy. Of course, not all of us can afford this, or we don't feel good when we are telling about ourselves, our families, our friends. So you don't have to name. You can say my husband friend, who is running the company, operating in such an industry. You don't have to name, but you are giving the shape. It's a real story. Another one approach to storytelling, which I want to share with you, and I'm using.
I have a question. I'm sorry, because we haven't actually decided on a strategy whether we can interrupt you or not, but this
you can, for sure. That's your time.
That touches upon something that we've been discussing yesterday. So I was just wondering, because you have this perspective of different levels of teaching, and we were thinking about preparing such a, let's say, one page summary of information about the company, because most of the companies, as you said, fortunately for us, are the companies that are not well known. So this is good, because this is something that students haven't experienced. And now that you've said about dosing the information, do you think, because we were discussing this, so what's your opinion on such sharing with the students or the teachers a kind of a summary, like with the most essential information that would be covering the, like describing, giving an overview on how the company functions in a particular moment when the started. Do you think that this is something that we should avoid by, you know, creating this kind of a dosing information, or do you think that this kind of I don't know, supplementary material is actually useful, but only should maybe be available for either students or teachers?
Only for teachers. Only for teachers.
Do you think that this is
I'm covering this topic. Yeah, I'm covering this topic when I'm talking about teaching notes in a minute. But absolutely, for teachers, they should be an expert. They should know the historical background, the political background, cultural background. They have to know the company and feel the company. If they are not feeling the company, the nature, they are not able to use the case study, but only for the teachers. And then teachers are deciding which information reveal and which hide, which uncover and which cover, because some of information can be uncovered by the students by surfing, I don't know, social media or websites. Or looking for articles about a company. But so the teacher is the person who is deciding what to reveal, what to hide. But the teachers definitely need such supplementary materials. It would be really helpful. And also the business model. This is something I'm always looking for. Understand what lies behind the success or failure of a company. When you don't know the business model, you are not able to identify this is working, this is not working. But only for the teacher. Okay. And something else, something instead of storytelling, because sometimes we have no time, sometimes we feel that we can use something better than just storytelling. I will share my story with you, what to do instead of using storytelling. A few years ago, I decided to write a case study about the best middle-sized shopping center in the world. Luckily, this shopping center is located in Poznan. It's the old brewery. I have the possibility to talk with the owner, and she said, okay, Anna, you can do this. You can write the case study. You can describe our history, what happened from the very beginning till 2018 or 19, as far as I remember. So she gave me permission to use the archives. So I spent a lot of time to watch the films, watch the pictures, read the materials. And I realized that I'm not going to use storytelling. I will do something else. A few weeks before the case study, I'm showing students these pictures. This is old brewery and a new one. So what is the result of the whole process of building the best middle-sized shopping center in the world? And I'm giving them an assignment. I'm asking them, I want you to go to the shopping center, spend time, observe, feel the atmosphere, touch some elements, observe the customers, their behavior, the employees, and then come back to the classroom and we will be discussing. So they have the real experience and it's really nice. I've never seen students so much engaged into a case study. This was the best, my best experience. They were so engaged. They wanted to understand what lies behind such huge success of this shopping center, of this business. At the same time, COVID-19 ruined everything. And right now I'm using this case study and we're trying to understand what are the challenges connected with COVID-19 and running and managing this shopping center. So not always it's possible to go and physically experience something, but you can ask your student, you can recommend them, go to the website, survey the website, investigate, look into social media activities, find articles, just to understand the nature of the business. So we have two options, storytelling or the physical observation or physical touching, feeling, something we will be covering during the case study. Okay, and another nice practice that I'm using. It's so simple, but we forget about it. Wearing the shoes. I'm wearing the shoes of a teacher or I'm wearing the shoes of a student. It depends what I'm doing. When I'm writing the case, each time I'm trying to wear the shoes of another teacher. And I'm asked a very simple question. Would I like to use this case study in my lectures? Yes, why? No, why? The answer no, an explanation why is much more important for me. So understanding why this case study is poor, why I'm not going to use it. And the second, wearing shoes is when I'm choosing the case study. I'm trying to wear the shoes of my students and ask a question, would I like to learn from this case study? If yes, why? If no, why? It helps me to choose, or it helps me to improve my case study, to cover some topics that are not covered so far, or to add something, or to eliminate some parts of a case study if it's too long. So wearing the shoes is something which is very, very simple in practice, but we forget about it. We forget about such a practical approach to the process of writing the case study, recording the case study, or selecting the appropriate case study for our course. My biggest problem and my biggest disappointment, I would like to mention three. So first of all, most case studies describe success. This company is successful because. So we have too optimistic picture of the company, of the market, of the country, of the product. It's too optimistic, so we cannot believe in such a success. It's focused only on what was successful. It's not covering failure, mistakes, drawbacks. And we simply speaking, not believe it's real one. So that's my big problems. And I'm looking for cases that are showing failures, problems, crises. We remember much better negative experience than positive. And there's too many positive experience covered in case studies. The second issue, which is my big problem with using case studies, is one perspective. So for example, we have only one stakeholder group perspective showed in a case study, only managers or only employees or only suppliers. We need more. We need 2, 3 different perspectives to be showed, to be uncovered in a case study to make this case study interesting. And just one topic. So only marketing or only finance or mostly operations management. This creates a huge problem and this limits applicability of such a case study. So what I'm looking for are case studies that are very, very broad, and I can decide what is my topic that I'm going to cover. But I can use it also to show that there is more than just marketing or there's more than just finance. And the worst thing, absolutely worst thing, is one solution. Solution that we know from the very beginning. That's absolutely the worst thing. And some case studies from a textbook with some supplementary questions are one solution case study. So there is no space for creativity, no space for discussion. We know from the very beginning what will be the answer. We know exactly in which one paragraph there is the answer on a question. Come on, this kind of case study, forget about using them. So your video cases should have more than just one solution. They should force students, delicately, but force students to be creative, to look for solutions, to discuss, to show pros and cons of different answers. This is really important to propose more than just one simple solution. That's the real reason why we are using case studies. Because in the real world, You have no one solution, you have much more than just one. And a teaching notes, which are sometimes teachers' problem. Usually there are. I'm not using teaching notes because my experience are extremely bad. I realized it's a waste of time, and I realized I don't know more than my students. It's copy paste from the case study, or it's mostly it's concentrated on persuading me that there's one good solution. We should expect much more different, alternative, but equally good solutions. Not black and white approach, colorful approach. That's why I'm not using, not to focus on this one good solution, not to concentrate only on this. What we also expect is to know more than the students know. So Catherine, as you asked, what should be covered in the teaching notes? All the information that are not covered in the case study, all the information that will create us as an expert. I know more than you know, and I can decide what information I'm revealing you, what information you have to uncover by yourself. So, and this usually teaching notes are not giving us more knowledge. We don't know more. And the supporting questions, which are the biggest problem, they should stimulate discussion, creativity, and provide new opportunities to use the case study. And usually that's a very typical situation. The supporting questions, especially in textbook, I have a few textbooks here. This supporting questions are just a simple exercise. Find the appropriate paragraph to answer the question. No brainstorming, no discussion, no creativity, no survey, no looking into the internet. Students love to look into internet with the mobile phones. Let's give them time to do this. Okay, any questions regarding teaching notes?
How would you see, and I sorry, but I could see Philip that wanted to ask something.
Yeah, so I wanted to come back actually to something you said before, because I love your insights here. Given that we're still writing most of the teaching notes, I think these are excellent input, I must admit. But I want to come back to when writing case where teachers choose, when choosing case where students choose. But how do you students choose? So what do you focus on? Because some prefer that type of product or service or that type of industry, so what do you focus on? Is it more like learning objectives or activities, or because it says a lot, but it says nothing, right? Wearing some issues. Yeah.
So first classes which I have with the group, it doesn't matter if the group is small or big. I'm learning about my students. I'm asking them the question: what companies you would like to find out more during this semester we will spend together? What are the industries you would like to cover? What are the areas of business that you are especially interested in? I'm using Mentimeter, so the tool that I've used today, and I have the data and I know exactly, of course, everyone is different and everyone expects something else. But when I know that 50% of students want to know more something about logistics, I'm looking for cases that I'm covering mostly logistics as a main topic. If I know that they are interested in Alibaba or Amazon or Allegro or any other company, I know how to choose the case study. Then after each case study, I am asking them similar question. Do you feel that this case study was useful for you? Yes, no, and why? If they're answering no, I know that I selected an appropriate case. Next time I'm trying to match better their expectations with the case study. And I'm listening. Feedback or feed forward, I call it feed forward because that's more important. I'm asking students really, really often. So I have a lot of feedback. This formal one, but also informal. I'm always telling them that's your time. You have the right to ask a question. There is no bad questions. There is no bad answers. The more questions you will ask, the better for us. So, it's a kind of a building the atmosphere of teaching and learning experience. I'm trying to organize these classes with my golden rule. Treat your students as you would like to be treated. I'm using this rule. So I'm always repeating them, especially those students from international cohorts who are paying for studies. That's your time, that's your hour and a half, you've paid for this. So let's use it as you want it to be used. So by asking questions and taking them into account, not just asking because I want to ask, but asking because I want to know and apply. So feedback, feed forward, asking a question, and knowing the students. That is wearing the shoes of students.
I would like to comment.
No, I'm sorry, go ahead, Niket.
Very short. I would like to comment. I think, just listening to what you said, I think the critical thing is to show them that we're caring for them. I think caring is the critical word. It's not like, we're there to deliver some sort of a lecture, but just to show that, it's a two-way thing. And if we can show that we are caring for their future, I think, we have them on board.
Yeah. My students call me Mama sometimes. Anna, you are like mother for us. So I think caring is a good word, as you said. Yes, Philip.
Anna, can I come back to also? So I like your idea, and I think that we have this in our video cases that there are a multitude of topics that are covered in a case. Now, often a case is, you're also treating some sort of theory or a topic, like, this is a chapter on sourcing, or this is a chapter on marketing or whatever. Although I like the fact that there are many topics that are being treated in a case, of course, there is a focus that you want to draw to a certain solution or a certain aspect, because you're trying to also instruct a little bit about some business model choice or whatever. Sometimes students also say, the case was very interesting and we learned a lot. We're just not sure what it was, or how it's linked to the chapter you forced us to read prior to that case study, for instance. So also in that, I know perhaps the feedback that you give, or the linking that you make yourself is important. But then you often or sometimes lose a little bit of the variety or all the potential that a case has. So I don't know if you have any feedback on that.
So what can be my feedback? It is the case. It is in practice. It is happening very, very often that after spending hour and a half, the students, okay, it was interesting, and so on. And what's the reason you bring this case to the class? But we have to stress. We have to focus on one thing and one application. So, for example, logistical models, some tools to analyzing logistical function of a company. But at the same time, I'm always repeating, the company is not operating in vacuum. So there is always external environment. There are people, internal and external stakeholders who are, that's why case studies are more practical, because they're covering many topics, many. If your case studies, your video case studies are covering many topics, you are giving the choice to the teacher. He is the owner of the case study, and he's deciding, or she, what he wants to or she wants to cover. So the more topics we are covering, the more closer to the practice the case is. But the teacher is the owner of the time and of the case study. So not giving this choice is horrible. Giving the choice is something, it depends on the teacher, how you will use. I don't have such a problem in reality that they are asking me a question, what so? What for? I don't have it. Maybe it's a case, it's a matter of experience. Maybe it's a matter of this atmosphere and this caring. I'm telling them, you never know what will be useful in the future, what kind of knowledge, which one skills will be useful for you in the future. You don't know this. So there is no good answer, no good recommendation for this. Okay, my teaching notes, where we are. We are here, my best practice so far. In
I have, Anna, a question to teaching notes yet, sorry, but we were just discussing it quite I think yesterday or 2 days before. So if you think about this typical structure, because, well, telling the truth, sometimes you are even expected to deliver some kind of a teaching note that has to fit to something. So this is not always a choice between of what you would like to, but sometimes you are also, let's say, directed. But if there would be something unique that you would be expecting from a teaching note, what would that be exactly? Maybe one or two things that you normally don't find and you think it's should be included in there, but also something that is feasible, okay? Like in because we are now facing the task of creating the teaching notes. So the question that sometimes I had is how to make it distinct and usable, but also, you know, feasible for the fact that, for instance, it has to be distributed by someone. It has to have some kind of a structure and fit to something that already exists.
My question first, I will ask you a question. What are your case studies mostly showing this positive aspect of running the business or the positive experience, or you feel that they are much more real, showing both sides of a coin, the positive and negative? Because I believe that the people don't want to talk about negative aspects.
There are normally both, I suppose, because especially in the beginnings of the cases, there are at least problems that they are facing. But I suppose that in the end, in quite a lot of cases, some solutions are also shown
positively biased.
Yeah, like because we've been working on Allegro together, so you know how Allegro case actually dissolved with the whole big problem, but they were actually trying to show the positive side, how they, for instance, tackled things. So definitely I would say that at least in the Polish cases, the positive side prevails.
So in teaching notes, I would expect the second side of the coin, knowing a little bit more about all this negative, all the drawbacks, failures of a company, if something like this happen, and the context, historical and political context. This is something I'm looking for. If we don't understand the context, we are not able to understand the business. So for me, this general picture is something I really need. Like this old brewery case study. If I didn't know the context, all the problems during the whole process of creating the business and running the business right now, I would not be interested in using this case study.
I think our cases illustrate, let's say, decisions, but I wouldn't necessarily say that you know, it's a one option decision, right? Like in many cases, yeah, they make decisions and they live with the decision that they've made, right? I mean, that's what you do when you make a strategic decision. But I think yeah, at least in the cases that I'm trying to develop, it's very problem based, because yeah, these are sometimes people that didn't know what to do in the beginning, and so they've made a decision and they try to stick by it and make it work. But it's, you know, sometimes it's not always the best, I think. It's important to realize that it's good that we should at least mention other possibilities in teaching notes.
Yes, exactly. What if we've made another decision? So just putting what kind of decision could be made, or what kind of decision they've been thinking about. They decided on this one, okay, but what have been other decisions? What have been other direction they could go? So this would be absolutely perfect. And a timeline, you know, very simple timeline for the company, just to show, or the market. You are probably covering only companies, so timeline for the company and some milestone moments. What have been these milestone moments? You can find them very easily on the website, I think. It's okay, Catherine? Are you satisfied? That's a difficult question. Each one case study should be treated separately, I think. There is no one good answer.
Thank you also for using the case on the brewery. Now you actually made me a little bit sad that I'm not in Poznan.
Yeah.
Last time we met in Poznan, it was December, and you were not happy that we were meeting in Poznan. I remember. So now it's the other way around.
Yeah, I actually looked up where the Steady Brovar is right now.
It is located in the center, and it's really nice place.
I should have invited Anna to our December transnational project meeting. Then she would be, more encouraging and promoting, let's say, Poznan.
Yeah. With this Stary Browar or Old Brewery, I have one more thing, which is nice. I'm taking my students for the journey. There is a guide who is talking us, showing us details that we are not seeing, we are not noticing when visiting when doing shopping. So, because my friend is right now managing director, so I'm simply speaking, ask her, can I come with my students? Sure, we will show you the business. They will uncover everything which is covered for those who are doing just shopping. And one more thing, the last thing that I want to mention today is my best practices in dealing with a case. With a bottom-up approach, the problem-based learning and discussion, that's the most common approach. We are using this, and we have the same problem. Only few of the students are fully engaged, the rest are observing. But we want all of them to be engaged. So more and more often I'm using the role-playing as a nice approach to solve the case study. And it gives me an opportunity because I know my students, or I think I know my students. I can always ask them additional questions. I can match the specific interest with a specific role. So I can simply speaking ask, who is interested in marketing? I am, so you will be marketing manager. Pick up your team. Who is, the problem is when everyone wants to be CEO of the company. That's the problem, but sometimes it's really easy to find marketing manager, or financial director, or CEO of the company, the board of directors, etc., etc. And absolutely the best is debate or trial. This is absolutely the best. We have two diametrically opposed views. Both are socially and ethically accepted. And there is no straightforward outcome. So we don't know what will be the outcome of debate. And all of the students, really all of the students are so engaged. We want to win. We are winners by nature. So debates, trials are absolutely the best practice in dealing with a case study, which I'm using, but you cannot use it very, very often. You can do this 2-3 times per semester. If you will use it lecture by lecture, they will say, oh my goodness, another debate, another trial. We don't want. So these are my experience. I would like to thank you so much for your attention, for being like Boomer from time to time, or mostly. It was, for me, really nice experience. I hope you can get a bit of knowledge from my experience. Thank you.